Right now, there's a 70-year-old pipeline lying on the bottom of the Straits of Mackinac. It moves about 23 million gallons of oil and gas through the Great Lakes every single day. And you've probably heard about the environmental nightmare scenario if that pipeline were to rupture. But here's the twist. A new report says the fix that's on the table, a tunnel under the lake bed, could actually stick Michigan taxpayers with a $4 billion bill if anything goes wrong. And that's why environmental groups aren't just saying no to the tunnel. They're saying it's time to shut the whole thing down. This is So What Michigan, where we follow the money and show you what's really at stake here at home, especially when the world's largest supply of fresh water is on the line. Here's the deal. Line 5 is an oil pipeline that runs from Wisconsin to Ontario, with a 4+ mile stretch through the Straits of Mackinac. Basically the worst possible place in Michigan for an oil spill. After anchor strikes, coating damage, and a long list of safety warnings, Enbridge pitched a solution. Move the Straits segment into a tunnel bored into the rock below the lake bed. Under a deal that was cut under former Republican Governor Rick Snyder, the state of Michigan, not Enbridge, would actually own that tunnel once it's built. The Canadian oil company keeps pumping product, we inherit the structure and the liability that comes with it. And therein lies the problem. According to a new report from Oil and Water Don't Mix, Enbridge only has about $900 million set aside to deal with a disaster, but the total cost of a major Line 5 spill, including the cost of cleanup and closed shipping lanes, could easily run into tens of billions of dollars. The tourism sector alone around places like Mackinac Island could lose up to $4.8 billion. In other words, if this tunnel project goes through, Enbridge gets to collect decades of profit from running oil through our Great Lakes, while Michigan is left holding the bag if disaster hits. And this is not hypothetical. The Line 5 pipeline system has already spilled more than 1 million gallons over the years, including one incident in 1999 where a leak of more than 220,000 gallons of crude oil forced hundreds of Upper Peninsula families to evacuate their homes. And this so-called solution that Enbridge is proposing, well, it isn't exactly risk-free either. According to this new report, the tunnel, as designed, would leak about 21,000 gallons of groundwater every day. And experts say that kind of constant infiltration with our freshwater supplies could spread oil contamination and turn cleanup into a decades-long nightmare. Here's the kicker. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel and other state officials warned us back in 2020 that this tunnel project would expose taxpayers to massive unprotected costs. And this new report, well, it basically says that those warnings, now years later, have been ignored. Meanwhile, Line 5 is still pumping oil, and environmental groups aren't fighting for a better tunnel. They're fighting to shut the pipeline down entirely before a spill in the Great Lakes turns into a generational disaster that everyone is stuck paying for. They're now calling on Governor Gretchen Whitmer and state regulators to reject the tunnel permit altogether. So what? Well, this isn't just about fish and sunsets, though those matter too. It's about whether a big oil company gets to collect decades of profit, while Michigan taxpayers and Great Lakes communities inherit the potential fallout of an environmental disaster. Environmental groups say the math is simple. If the tunnel is this risky and the old pipeline is already dangerous, the real solution isn't a new tube. It's turning off Line 5 altogether. Hit follow. I'll keep tracking who's pushing this deal, who's trying to stop it, and who's really on the hook if it all goes sideways.